Hey, everybody, we're going to talk to Joe this week. We're going to cover a few topics as it relates to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, epidemic, whatever demic you want to call it. So Joe is with us. We're going to talk what we've learned through all this, and then we're going to talk about parenting in the midst of a world-changing event. So I am Kyle Walker. This is Joe, and this is the Hitting the Wall podcast. All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us. As you can see, we have Joe with us. We are still social distancing because we're just amazingly wonderful citizens like that. Hopefully you all are as well. You know, Joe, it's actually been like a month since you and I have last talked, if you can believe all that nonsense.
Yeah, it has been quite a while. I know you said pandemic, epidemic. It's just in the middle of this coronademic. It has been a month since we talked, and what did we talk about the last time? Was it baseball?
I think we did baseball last time. Yeah.
So since then, there's been baseball.
A few
started.
Yeah.
And now it looks like it might be closing down again.
Yeah, it might be over. Over as quick as it began.
Yeah. So,
but on a more positive note, you got a vacation.
I did. We took 10 days and went to the colorful Colorado.
Yeah.
Which I love. When you drive into Colorado, there is now there's a sign that says "Welcome to colorful Colorado" right next to the sign that says "Put your stinking masks on, people."
Right.
and basically, the second you step out of your vehicle, you better have a mask on.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of neat stuff while I was in Colorado. I learned that if I'm looking for a cigar, don't just go to a smoke shop. Not exactly the same thing as in Kansas.
No, I mean, it's still something you can smoke.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Maybe not cigar-ish.
Well, the thing he tried to sell me was about the size of a cigar.
Oh, my.
Now, I didn't take him up on it, but he did tell me it would take away all my problems.
I'm sure it would, and probably most of your identity and IQ, and you wouldn't wake up for 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Something like that.
So, but no, it was great. We, my wife and my kids had never been to the mountains.
Nice.
And so this was really nice for them to be able to see, an actual mountain. My middle daughter, she thought we were going over giant things when we went through the Flint Hills.
Oh yeah. Those are gigantic mountains.
Yeah, giants. And then she fell asleep when the mountains were kind of on the horizon, and so we could see them. We knew they were coming. She couldn't see them. And then when she woke up, we were 9,000 feet.
Yeah.
And she looked around and was like, oh, there was a distinct difference.
Yeah, it's a different world there. It's a different world.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. So in the last month since we talked, and really it's been longer because our last talk was about baseball, which, again, always lovely to talk sports, even in its very reduced capacity. And you can tell I've taken a month off because I'm stumbling over my words. Things have, it's like things have changed, but they really haven't. As the way the world has turned over the course of the last 30 days. So I think we'll just talk about that. I know one of the things you and I discussed is in this time, I guess really since, from March until now, and we're doing this here, of course, smack dab in the middle of summer, like the pandemic has taught us things about ourselves, both good and bad. And so maybe we'll just kind of talk about some of the things that we personally are learning during this unwanted and unprepared for downtime. And then, we'll kind of go from there. So why don't you start us off? What is one positive thing that you have learned during this pandemic?
Kyle, it's been something that I've been wrestling with, and it's, I knew relationships were important coming in this. I think one of the, even in light of Corona, and not being able to be around people as much as I want to,
Mm-hmm.
I've started to realize that I don't need the social media even in this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the relationships that actually matter, like I'm able to reach out and make those things continue even without that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the other side of this for me is, you know, I was kind of fearful at the beginning of this because I was like, well, there's no people around. This is really crappy.
Yeah.
And I think it's shown me that one, I'm a little stronger than I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and two, that God's blessed me with an incredible family that I've been able to lean into,
Yeah.
to the point that my constant go 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 and be around people, be around people, be around people,
Yeah.
which is still like that's my default. Um, I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to function without that.
Yeah.
Um, but I've got a strong enough family bond there with the people who live underneath my roof that it's been okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's been okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and honestly, at times been really good,
Yeah.
to reconnect with my family and realize that it's also one of the things that I've realized that hasn't been so good is that I really think that it's shown me that in some ways I had neglected some of that relationship,
Sure.
and kind of make me want to punch myself in the face a couple of times because I'm like, oh, well, crap, Joe, you screwed this up, but apparently not bad enough that it wasn't redeemable.
Right. Be able to hit the reset button here in the old time of the Rona.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Yeah. It's been hard, because you might think of things that are positive and some are negative. I don't know. It's trying to really, it's difficult to really put my thumb on what it is. But I think one of the positives I've found, and anyone who kind of knew me personally before the Rona knows that ever since my divorce, I have made my schedule and my life so full of
Yeah.
things. And really, originally, it was really to kind of keep me out of trouble and to keep me from doing really regrettable things. And then, like, that just never stopped. I just kept burning the candle at both ends and just leaving my schedule as full as possible and always on the run and always doing something. I have found that I don't need to do that. I don't need to constantly overbook myself. I'm actually enjoying this period where I'm not constantly on the go, where my calendar is not just constantly lit up with, event here, go here, do this, do that. It's really been kind of nice. It's a happy accident,
Yeah.
because I, of course, didn't plan for any of this to happen, but it's a happy accident that I found that there's a lot of things that I was doing to myself that I can just do without, that I don't need to constantly fill my life with stuff and commitments and, trying to make sure that anyone who needed something from me got it immediately, if not sooner. Now that there's not that need, I can just take a little time to kind of recharge my own batteries, which has been lovely because catching up on rest is great. But yeah, I'm really kind of just, I'm learning that there's a lot of things I put priority on really aren't that important.
Yeah.
They can wait and they can be put onto the back burner, and doesn't mean when this is over, I can't resume a few things, but I am certainly not going to go 110 miles an hour like I had been going.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's actually been quite nice. Been quite nice to come to that realization.
Yeah. It is nice when we realize that some of the things that we've grown, so we don't have to have those things anymore.
Right. Yes, absolutely correct.
Because I can say this because we're friends. Had this happened when I first met you,
Uh-huh.
I don't know that you would have been able to say what you just said.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
And it's and for me, it's just a reminder of what I already had that I didn't think I had underestimated how important what I already had was.
Yes.
But the other thing is, like, and this is one of those things that's really, as a pastor, this is going to be a hard thing for me to say, is I started to realize that my relationship with God had become a job.
Yeah. I'll bet there's a lot of pastors who could say the same thing.
And initially I felt real shitty about it.
I'll bet. I'll bet.
Because it had become a job.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I was doing, I'd be in my scripture every day, but it was always thinking in the realm of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can I learn from this that I can tell somebody else?
Yep.
Not like, hey, I'm sitting here and I looked at it like this, you know, in the Old Testament, Moses went up on the mountain and got the 10 Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
But he got it by sitting in the presence of God. And sometimes I think that we think the mountain has been closed.
Yeah.
But it hasn't.
Yep.
And that I can still walk up there and just sit with my Creator. And if I walk away with nothing that benefits somebody else, but it's the time is meant for me and him, then that's okay.
Yeah.
So once I got over feeling shitty about myself, and just realizing that while I also, you know, I'd been neglecting that relationship a little bit at home,
mm-hmm.
I'd also been neglecting that vertical relationship.
Sure.
The positive is both of those places were full of a lot of grace.
Yeah.
And let me apologize and just invited me back in.
Well, sure. Yeah. I don't see your family kicking you out. I mean, well, you might deserve it sometimes, but
I probably do.
Probably.
Luckily, I know people who would take me in for a night. At least one. No vacancy.
No vacancy.
Yes, probably not you, but
no. My recliner seat's one. That's me.
Yeah. So, yeah, man.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that I've realized. Like, I got so wrapped up in work.
Yeah.
That my relationship with Jesus became a job. And that's a crappy place to find yourself in.
Yeah, to a much lesser extent. And I'm bouncing off your story a little bit, but I'm not even going to pretend like these are even. But when I was doing the old show, the old podcast, that was, more the religion based. Anytime I was trying to find something scripturally to pertain to the show, it was never for me. It was only to try and make the show better, or it was try to make that old radio station happy. It was never because I wanted to be, in the Bible and find things that pertain to me. Because everything I read, it's like, oh, here's how I can use this on this show. So yeah, I to my much lesser extent, I feel exactly what you're saying there. So yeah.
That's like at top of my list of like, this is the crappy things that I uncovered about myself, but I'm really glad it happened in a time when when I was kind of forced to just sit and deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's really nothing you could do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, wait, that was supposed to be the good part though. That was a good part of what we've learned about ourselves. I think we segued right into the negative things that we've learned about ourselves.
I think we did. Yeah.
Look at us sticking to the script that we don't have in front of us.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's how this works.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we're out here just talking. Yeah, there's nothing on paper. So really, we've kind of gone over both the good and the bad. I guess one of the bad things I've found in this whole pandemic, I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. And again, I've seen this behavior in others, and there's times where you see this behavior in yourself, but as your mind gets bored, what do they say? Like idle hands are the devil's playground.
Yeah.
You find just these really stupid thoughts coming to your head. Maybe I should, do this, or maybe I should contact that person. I've seen people out there who are contacting each other merely to stir pots. And to be real honest, the things going on right now are even past the realm of the coronavirus with George Floyd, and then now with how how the sports world has jumped into the fray, and how Hollywood has, and how we have, and the political figures. So not only do we have terrible pandemic, we have complete racial unrest. And so I think this is driving people to make a lot of really terrible decisions. And I'd love to say that I'm immune from that, but I'm not. Uh, but yeah, there are people who are simply trying to incite hatred and to start arguments and that just want to pile on when ultimately I feel like we really should be coming together. But right now, there's not been a bigger wedge. Yes, there has. During the times of
but not
Jim Crow in the 50s and the complete racial unrest. For all the people who are saying that this is worse than that, I would dare say you're wrong. No one's putting attack dogs on people. But for our lifetime, you and I, this is probably as worse as it's ever been, really in a time where I feel like we should be coming together. But,
yeah, it is a different thing, man, because I was thinking about this in the realm of, I had a friend who sent me a note and said, what's the difference between what's happening now and what happened at 9/11? And it was an interesting question, and I thought about it, and I was like, well, 9/11 drew us together.
It did, big time.
I mean, like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, and this has gone the opposite direction.
It has.
And I don't know. I mean, I know the circumstances are different. One was a direct assault on our country, and that's a different thing.
Yeah. It was easy to unify around that.
It was easy to unify around. They ran up. They killed us. We're going to kill them back.
But here's the problem that gets me. Well, if you look at the George Floyd situation only, how is that not something we could unify around? Because the way I saw it, everyone from all walks of life came out and said this was bad, this was wrong, and then the moment we all admitted this was bad and wrong, then the division.
Yeah.
It seemed weird. It seemed like this was an event that should have drawn us all together, and it did for about that long. Yeah. And then we did what we normally do, and we started arguing about it.
I think some of it's societal. My daughter talked with me, my oldest daughter asked me about, she goes, Daddy, I heard about this H1N1 thing.
H1N1, oh yeah.
Yeah, I said, I remember H1N1. She goes,
sure.
She goes, did everything close when H1N1 happened? I said, no.
Wasn't even thought of.
Do what? Yeah, well, yeah. And
wasn't even on the table.
Right. And she asked, what's the difference? She goes, because Dad, millions of people died from H1N1. I said, yeah, you're right. Swine flu killed millions of people.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully, Kyle, I think it goes back to what I was saying about one of the things I learned about myself is that I don't need the social media.
Yeah.
I just think that's kind of the number one. This is the thing that is different. This is the thing that's different, is that we all have an opportunity for our voices to be, we have the misguided assumption that we all have the opportunity for our voices to be heard by the masses.
Right.
And we don't. I mean, you're only going to be voiced, even in amongst your friend circle, you're only going to be seen by a minuscule percentage.
Right.
And so it's I think that's the difference. Yeah. Those conversations that used to have to take place person to person.
Where it's a lot more difficult to be a jerk face. Yeah. When you're looking someone else in the face and they have the opportunity to knock you on your ass if you need it.
Well,
you don't talk as tough.
Remember I liked the Lethal Weapon movies.
Yeah.
Cancel number 3, that wasn't any good, but 1, 2, and 4 were not bad. Well, and I really think 1 and 4 were the best. Yeah. But in number 4, it's Joe Pesci's got a phone and Mel Gibson's talking to him. And he goes, "Yeah, telephone tough guy." And it's like, okay, because it was the first time I remember seeing a cell phone like that in a movie, and because some of the things they wouldn't have said face to face.
Correct.
I mean, or if they did, I mean, like, you're going to say it knowing, hey, what I'm doing right now is probably going to get me punched in the mouth.
It's very true.
I'm prepared for that
Sure.
because I'm doing it because I want to fight.
Or
You know?
9 times out of 10, if you're in that situation, you find a more tactful way to
Right.
speak your point. And right now, we don't have to do that. We can put our opinions out there to whoever may see them as raw and unfiltered, and a lot of times as unthought out as we want them to be.
Right.
And we're just throwing that shit against the wall to see what sticks.
Right. And, you know, it's an interesting thing. I talked a little while back here on a Sunday morning, I think, and we were talking about this idea of boasting, and you know, and you know, what do we boast in, you know, and how boasting is now a look at me type of a thing.
Yes.
And so, you know, we live in this individualistic society that says, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there was a time, even still in the early 2000s, when there was an element of look at we, you know, there was a pride in where we're from,
mm-hmm.
and things like that. I mean, I know this goes back even a little bit further, but if you think about, like, I've listened to some interviews that Dwight Eisenhower gave.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, and he never went through an interview without talking about Abilene, Kansas.
Home sweet home.
Because he says, well, I learned this in the heart of America, Abilene, Kansas. And it's one of those things where he wasn't boasting in himself. You know, it was giving credit to the people who had invested in him,
mm-hmm.
and giving credit to the people who came before him, and not always looking at the bad, because there were, and not that there wasn't bad, because there was.
Sure. Always is.
Always is. We're fallen human beings, but it's I think sometimes we can get caught in meeting somebody and we see the Mona Lisa, but there's a pimple.
Right.
And the pimple's the thing. It's kind of like on Austin Powers when he's talking, he's like, and he's like, all right, zit, pimple, pop it. You know?
Well, it's like anytime someone talks about the Mona Lisa, they have to talk about the eyebrows because they weren't perfect, or they're not there. There's something they talk about with the eyebrows. But yeah, it's like you can look at this thing, which is a thing of beauty, a priceless piece of art. You're going to find the one non-perfection.
Right.
And yeah, we tend to do that more and more.
And you know, and I believe firmly, you know, that I believe firmly that there is a you know, one of the things that Scripture talks about, you know, I bring things back to Scripture, is that
sure.
that we are God's masterpiece, and
right,
you know, that we're His work of art, and it doesn't mean that the work of art is perfect. But we've got to look at things as a totality, and how do we talk about the beauty of it?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean ignore the blemishes, because you can't. And we live in a society right now where the blemishes are very prevalent.
Well, and everyone wants to sit there and point them out. That's
yeah. But how do we do this in a way that where we can bring we can bring light to the beauty of the picture,
mm-hmm.
and where we've come from to where we are,
sure.
And as this picture continues to take shape. But you know, Kyle, this is such a weird time.
It is a weird time,
and it's so difficult to know sometimes how best to respond to people.
Well, so let's do this. Let's since we don't always know how to respond to people, let's respond to the people closest to us. Right. Since we both are functioning parents, let's talk about the kid view of this. Okay, so how are your kids doing? And we're only going to go back to pandemic here at this moment. We're not going to go back to the other issues. Pandemic only. How are your kids doing?
My kids are doing okay. My kids have handled this pretty well. My oldest is having a little bit of a hard time just because there were some college plans that have changed and
Sure.
some things like that, but she's handling it well. My 9-year-old had a really difficult time in the spring last year.
Mm-hmm.
But has come around and is excited about the fact that I don't know what schools are doing there, but I know up here we were given the option to go back in person.
Correct.
And he's excited about going back in person, however that may look.
Sure.
I mean, she's even with the limitations and the masks and the social distancing, she's fine with all of that. She just wants to be around people her age.
Well, she's like her father.
Yeah, a little bit. And so it is they're doing okay.
No, how's the youngest one taking it?
Oh, the 2-year-old?
Yeah.
She's great.
Does she fight you about the mask?
We don't have to fight about that because she's 2.
So is she not wearing a mask? Oh, okay. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've had one that small.
So the CDC, we followed the CDC guidelines, and they said 2 and under, don't even try.
Fair enough. And that makes sense.
They basically said it's not good for them.
Oh, okay.
So,
and most of the lungs are still developing, so.
Yeah, most of the places we've been in have said 6 and under, and we're not going to ask any questions.
Oh, okay. Well, good to know. I had no idea.
Yeah, so
There you go. Well, over in my world, with my 2 daughters, again, it's funny. Kids, they're just so adaptable. For a minute, they're like, oh, this seems kind of concerning. Now, it's already become second nature. Wear the mask, social distance, just kind of do your part. So, I mean, my kids are doing great with it. My youngest is just now back to playing soccer. And, of course, they've come up with a few different rules. The parents all have to wear masks on the sidelines, and the players don't have to when they're playing. But when the game is over, throw it on. No after the game handshakes or anything like that. But they're doing fine. And so, my 10-year-old is still out there dominating people on the soccer field. Sorry, there's my humble brag right there because she's awesome. And then my soon-to-be 14-year-old, she is being every other kid in the world.
Yeah.
She plays on her phone when she can. Her phone that only does games. It's not even connected to anything, but whatever. Makes her feel good to have one. Watches her YouTube and, complains. Because that's what teenage girls do most of the time.
Right. It's interesting, Kyle, because I mean, I don't know. One of the things that keeps going across and I hear a lot about is when it comes to these discussions about going back to school in the fall, they talk about the mental health of the kids.
Yes.
And listen, I understand that socialization is incredibly important, but I think sometimes we are overlooking the fact that our kids are going to respond to what's going around them based upon how we respond to what's going around them. And
that's a true statement.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so the kids who are losing their crap right now,
it's because the parents are.
Tells me their parents are losing their crap right now.
Absolutely.
Part of it for me, and this is, I'm going to get on my soapbox a little, and some of this is pointed back at me when I was there. At the beginning of this, Kyle, I had to come to the realization that I'm the effing adult, and I need to have my crap together.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that I need to be okay with everything that's going on around me.
Sure.
And I need to be okay with not having people around me and all that stuff, because I don't have to be okay with that. But my response in that situation is probably going to determine a large percentage of how my kids handle this.
That's absolutely correct.
And so when I say that my middle daughter struggled at the very beginning, it's because I was crappy at setting an example at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And as soon as my mentality shifted and she started seeing, oh, dad's okay with it, we're going to be okay. Things changed. So people, if your kids are having a hard time during this season, I understand that socialization is important, but do you have your crap together?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, they're not going to either.
Yeah. Your kids are going to mirror basically what they're seeing from you or from your spouse, or if you're in my situation, from parents at another household or step parents, whatever your situation. If you got someone losing their stuff,
so just remember you're the adult.
What?
We've been through things before.
Yes.
I heard somebody once talk about the pandemic, and I'm not downplaying the pandemic, but the fact is that we've lived through these before.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We've been living through one since 1986 with HIV.
Mm-hmm.
We're living through one right now with type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
We've lived through H1N1. We've lived through SARS. We've lived through some of these other things. We've done it.
Yeah.
We can do it again. We lived through a recession before. Congratulations, you survived.
Woohoo.
Okay? This is when we need to remember we're adults.
Yeah.
And not place it all on other adults to be able to fix the problem with my kid.
Mm-hmm.
When I can't keep my own crap together. Grow up.
Yep. Yeah, and
off my soapbox.
There you go. Well, I do know that back in the spring when everything, so abruptly shut down and teachers are really put in the hot box, having to come up with this online learning nonsense. Yeah. A lot of parents got their eyes opened to the fact that, maybe your teacher wasn't so bad. Maybe your kids got some issues. And maybe they get that from the parents who might have some issues.
Right.
So, yeah, it was definitely eye-opening to some people who thought little Johnny was perfect. Turns out little Johnny was a hellraiser in class and kept that going at home. Yeah. And then the parents had to deal with it.
Right.
So, right. But we've said on this show many times, teachers are one of the most underappreciated groups in this world. Yeah.
They're incredible.
Absolutely.
And regardless of what the school district says or decides they're going to do right now, whether it's online or in person or a combination of both, if we're not supporting our teachers,
then
we're wrong.
Now, you're blowing up your teacher's personal phone number or emailing them 20 times a day when your kid's the jerk, that doesn't help anybody. Parents kind of need to remember to be parents. You're not your kid's buddy. You guys aren't friends. It's not your BFF. Be a parent. And if your kid's acting a shit, take it out back and whoop them.
And set an example that's worth following.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're going to follow your example regardless.
Sure. Oh, yeah. They're always watching. Always watching.
Oh, my goodness. It just,
yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of sidetracked there. We went down a bunny trail, but oh well.
No, I think it's a worthwhile bunny trail because when we talk about parenting in this season, it starts with example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can tell the kids whatever you want. You can tell them this is no big deal. You can tell them it's the worst thing ever. You can tell them, if we follow the rules, we're going to be fine. Tell them whatever. And I've said this on the show a million times. Words mean nothing. Words are meaningless. Actions absolutely speak louder than words. So if you're acting a fool, they're going to act a fool. If you're confident in what you're doing, they'll be confident in what you're doing. You set the tone, and they will follow because that's what kids do.
When I was young, Kyle, I remember, and again, circumstances are completely different, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I remember there was a young man that passed away from leukemia when I was young, and he was older than me, but I was 9 when he passed away. And I think he was 15 or 16.
Okay.
But he was somebody who we had relationship with their family. And I remember watching his parents, and his parents made it a point that they were like, we need our kids to be able to see that they can grieve during this and it's okay.
Yeah. They
didn't hide the fact that they were grieving.
Sure.
They didn't try to make it play like everything was okay. They would grieve and then they would talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
They would grieve and then say, what do we do now? And they would ask questions like, how do we live in a way that's going to honor who Mitch was? And they would do this publicly and with their kids. And I remember being part of around some of those conversations. You talk about the things you just pick up when you're a kid. This was just
Yeah.
something I picked up when I was a kid. And so it doesn't mean that this is a season where we have to say everything's hunky-dory, because
Right.
it's not. That would
It's
be
not.
dishonest.
Not even close to hunky-dory.
But how do we journey through this with our kids in a healthy way?
Mm-hmm.
And because anytime something like this happens, it's worthy of grieving. It's worthy of saying, you know, of sometimes being angry at. Yeah, it's okay to be upset about this, you know, because life sucks sometimes.
It certainly can. It certainly can.
Sometimes it's accepting the fact that this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes it's being mournful, sad over these things, but just do it in a way that's not, that doesn't just, that's, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, this is it. That's not just bitching about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And that's, I mean, at least what you see on the news or on social media, it's just,
keep your kids off of that stuff.
boy, that's no kidding. But yeah, it's just,
They don't need to see it.
it's the bitching. It's bitching and moaning and crying and wailing and blaming other people and not taking responsibility. And just, you know,
They
like you
don't
said,
need to see that right now.
no, they don't. And like you said, this is a season. Seasons come and go. This will be no different.
This will go at some point in time. Now, listen, it doesn't feel like it right now,
Right.
but it's gonna go. It's gonna go, and life is gonna look different.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, but I think that we'll return to some form of what has been normal.
Yeah.
I mean, what if you looking back at some of the things we talked about earlier at 9/11? Before 9/11, you could show up at the airport 10 minutes before your plane took off. You'd be good to go.
Yeah. You know, take your flamethrower with you. Check it as a bag. Yeah.
Check it as a bag. You're fine.
Yeah.
Pocket knives, whatever. No big thing. Obviously, that's not the situation anymore.
Right. After 9/11, everything looked different.
Yeah. Everything looks different. Things are going to look different after this.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be this wholesale change of where we're wearing masks for the rest of our lives.
Right. No, I don't believe that'll be the case.
No.
No.
It's just not. That's just not the way this is going to work.
Yeah.
You know, things are going to go back to some form of what we know as normalcy. But our kids are going to be able to look and say at the end of this, and they're either going to look and say, I never want to be like my parents when something happens, or they're going to say, you know what, mom and dad, they handled this okay.
Yeah, handled it like a champ.
It was hard, but they handled it okay. And yeah, I don't have a lot of sympathy right now for folks who are trying to place all the mental health for their kids on somebody else.
Yeah. No, that's too much. That's too much for anyone to carry. Yeah. You're the parent, so you have to shoulder that burden.
Right.
Don't put it on a teacher. Don't put it on one of those paras. Don't do any of that. Just, no, that's all you. It's all you.
Right.
But if somebody's watching this show, we already know that they're pretty much an upstanding individual, so I'm not worried about that. They got this.
I do know that they would be upstanding individuals.
Yeah, if they're watching this particular podcast.
Yeah.
They also have excellent taste. Very, very wonderfully done.
100%. You know, it is interesting because and I have no idea when this will air, but, you know, I was thinking this morning and I posted this. It's one of the few things that outside of just photos of athletes because they're awesome on my timeline lately, that I posted the astronauts from SpaceX.
Yes. Yeah, they came home today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was SpaceX or if it was something else, but they're coming home today.
Yes.
After 62 days in outer space.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of was wondering, I was like, man, I wonder if those guys going to land and say, well, it was good visiting. I'm heading back.
I wouldn't blame them. Wouldn't blame them one bit. They turn this pod around. I'm going back up.
I don't know how you turn this thing around, but we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm going back to where I came from.
I'm not coming back down here until you all sort this mess out.
I mean, was it the dog that they sent to Mars? They just sent, they had that launch the other day, a dog that sent to Mars. He's got the best spot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he's set.
He's set. He's got a long trip ahead of him. By the time he returns, if he returns, this should be done.
I would hope so. And the dog will have to come out of the little pod. He'll have a mask on.
Right.
He'll get to mark a rock on another planet, though. That's pretty cool.
That is neat.
Yeah.
That is neat.
So good on him.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, yeah. I don't think we can possibly get any better than that parting note right there.
No.
Marking a rock on another planet. So, all right. Well, Joe, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Everyone, as always, I beg of you to please like, share, comment, tell your friends, share the page, all that stuff.
Page, buy some good stuff.
Yeah, you can buy stuff. I can show you. I have one right here. I'm drinking my afternoon coffee out of this lovely hitting the wall coffee mug. This is a 15-ouncer, so it's not one of those little dinky ones. You can put it under your Keurig and you're good to go. But yeah, your shares and comments and likes on Facebook, where this primarily airs, they make all the difference. So I'm going to put it all on you. The success of this show has nothing to do with my ability or Joe's. This is all on you.
It's on you.
Yeah.
We
have nothing to do with this. This is entirely your making.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Joe, thank you much. We'll have you back on here shortly. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you on the next episode, whenever that may be.
Later.
Peace.